So Roland, I remember when you got in touch with me at the beginning, you had an idea of how to implement this project, right?
Yeah, and it was, I was trying to think of how we could do it, and I came up with a somewhat overly complex real-time version where we could tether a camera to a laptop and cast the image back to Earth, and I could, in real time, work with an astronaut to move through the station.
Well, essentially, yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's what it is. I think it would be reasonable. The astronaut at the end we do this with the scientists, with the experiments that we do on board. I'm not a scientist; I'm an engineer. But up there, I'm the hand of the scientist that in the ground wants me to do something about genetics or something that I don't really know. He tells me what to do, and that's the way you plan on how to do things. But it doesn't work. It doesn't work like that because in space we have very little time to actually do activity, and while science is extremely important, historical preservation is very important, but it does not get the priority needed for I would say, the huge amount of astronaut time that and resources from the space station that you would have needed if we would have done the project in this way. So, what did we do?
Well, you came up with a much simpler solution where we could just email photographs back and forth. I photographed the space station mock-up at JSC to kind of get a feel for things, and then shortly after that, they released a Google Street View of the interior of the station, which really helped me be able to go in and see how it's continually changing, the station, and the Google Street View is fixed. But it gave me a much better idea of what things look like, and I could do screen captures of that and then send those to you. And you were also gracious enough to do this on your own time. So
that worked because you gave me some instructions, some directions, some samples, and then you gave me enough flexibility and latitude to interpret your requirement, and try to make them according to what is there on the space station, which is difficult to do if you're not there. So, and this worked.
I was so impressed by how much the images felt like images I would take, and yet they had. I could tell that you had added your own ideas to them. Yeah, slant,
tint.
whatever.
Let's say it's a tinted
But
image.
so and that's what I really wanted. I wanted to be a collaboration because you are there. You can respond to how things are. You can respond to the light. You can respond to where things are stored at that time, how things are laid out.
Well, this may be like a filming a movie where the director, has this idea and tells the camera guy and tells the other guys, I want this, but then it's all filtered by what is possible and by the interpretation of each one of them, and usually they find a certain path, and that's what we did at the end, right? So Roland, eventually I got up there a file with the preferred shots, the orientation, the way you wanted things, and okay, I took this, I went around the station. It's a little bit complicated because you have to wait for the moment where you can take the shots. Usually the station is very busy, there are people around, lights, hardware, things like that. So I had to wait, and then I shot a few of those things, and I sent it to you because I thought, well, this is what we have so far. Let's see what Roland thinks about it. And what was the reaction?
And the reaction was I thought we would have to go back and forth on things where you would send me a shot and I'd say, no, change this, but actually your interpretation of things was right on. I think having the images to kind of go by and some of the notes, but at some point it actually became to me, I don't want to go back and redo stuff, partly because of time, but mostly because, again, you had added your own ideas and aspect to the photographs, and I wanted to keep that. So I think, that was interesting to me because I just kind of thought, I just think anybody could kind of, do my photography that close to how I do it and still be in there themselves.
Yeah, one of the things that, it's relatively quote unquote easy to, frame a shot the way you want it, but still there's a lot of technical settings that you can have on the camera, speed, all sorts of things like that. And I was trying to interpret those and this is where I wanted really your technical detail feedback.
Well, yeah, and I was surprised because in a weightless environment, I assumed there would, you can't use a tripod, so we'd have to shoot at the lighting's fairly low. You'd have to shoot at a fairly high ISO.
Can be challenging.
And then the batch I got, and they were shot at like a second, and sometimes and they were all tack sharp. And you can explain how you do that.
Well, yeah, in space it's true. You float away and everything, and you cannot have a tripod because it will float away the tripod too. So, but we have some modified equipment. It's a photographic modified equipment that we can actually attach to walls, to handrails, and block the camera in a certain specific angles. Now you remember we are in 0G, so I can go on the ceiling and point the camera down, or go everywhere and point it the way I want it. The problem is that the camera was oscillating because the station, it's big and huge, it's in microgravity, but it has a little bit of oscillation. If you take pictures at 1 second, I was trying to stay low with sensitivity in order to have less grain, but then you need to have this long and full close with the iris, so you get the depth of field fairly large. And then though the camera would really slightly bob around, so I had to come up with a little bit of a crazy solution to take two of these tripods, somehow, kind of mesh them together so they would provide a much more stable place. And in fact, I thought it would be interesting to even snap a picture of me taking this thing, so we could solve the mystery of how these pictures are coming down from the station.
Well, maybe in the future, though, they can use that for some other purpose. Your invention, your tripod, your bipod.
Okay.